Talk me through why you are now more pessimistic. What are you seeing?
Hi, Guy. What we are seeing is that in the first half of this year, when the lockdowns was more severe, the impact on economies was worse than we had anticipated in April. So that was one factor. The second factor is that because there is still no medical solution to this crisis, we are expecting much more persistent social distancing into the second half of this year. So the combination will then have an impact for growth potential for economies too. So these are some of the main factors behind the downgrade.
So, Gita, there has been some conversation that the IMF has been more optimistic than other agencies or other central banks even. What's the likelihood you're just going to have to keep on downgrading your outlook?
So when we put out our numbers in April at -3%, I think we were ahead of the curve there in terms of signaling that this was going to be the worst recession since the Great Depression and a truly global crisis. So those remain the main facts of this crisis. And yes, we've had a downgrade, which has brought us closer to one of the alternative scenarios we considered in April. I think this time, unlike in April, I think this time the risks are somewhat more balanced, which is that we have both an upside risk, which is you could have better news on the medical front, treatments, vaccines. But on the other hand, you could have worse news too, which is with second waves, financial tightening, trade, geopolitical tensions. But, you know, I would say that the risks are somewhat more balanced at this point relative to in April.
Why, though, do you think that, and it's not just the IMF, but other institutions as well, have been slow to realize the magnitude of what is happening to the global economy? What is it that you think that has caused that kind of creeping appreciation of the damage that is being done?
Well, I mean, this is a crisis like no other, as we've been saying, which means trying to figure out its impact is a true challenge, because to determine the impact, you have to answer questions like, how are people's behavior going to change? Are they going to want to stay home rather than go out and spend? And how long will they want to do that? And these are very hard to predict. But what we have seen is that the lockdowns have been very severe. Now, we are seeing recoveries, but it is uneven, which is that you certainly have some sectors like retail sector. We saw the numbers in the U.S. that came up. They look good. But on the other hand, if you look at contact-intensive sectors, those are leisure, hospitality, tourism, travel, I mean, those are still, are at a real deep low and barely recovering. So I believe this is what we're looking at. And second is that this is a global crisis, which means that for a country that is very heavily dependent on exports, I mean, even if domestically you're doing okay, you're going to have a big hit to growth.